All skills are connected, but they have different elements that others don't. I always really recommend that, you think of the things that you do in terms of, what do I do? What am I achieving behind this? Try not to get into the habit of thinking, I need to improve my English, therefore I'm going to read. Or what is better for improving my English, reading or listening? Try to think of it more along the lines of, here's a book that I want to read, so I'm going to read it. It just happens to be in English. Here's a radio show or audio book that I really want to listen to, so I'm going to listen to this. And the reason why is because that's going to do a much better job of creating the right kind of habits over time. The problem with what a lot of people do is they go looking for what is the best thing to do to improve my English, but really they're just so focused on improving their English for all of their usage time that they end up with a very, very slow, conscious way of doing it. And it's almost like everything becomes study. So try to think more in terms of what you do rather than whether something is effective or not, because the truth is nothing is better nor worse. However, it is more complicated than that. All skills are connected, but they have different elements that others don't. Now, let me just explain that a little bit. So, for example, in your study time, you come across the expression, push the boat out to, then, you're watching TV and you hear somebody on the TV say, oh, I'm going to push the boat out today. This is going to be the best party of my life. Well, that's the same thing, just from a different type of usage. If you read that in a book, that's just as useful. Now, all of that exposure and to that particular piece of English, push the boat out, whether it's from reading or from saying it yourself or from listening, it's all just as good as any other. And in fact, actually for memory, it is better to hear the same thing or to see the same thing in lots of different ways. That'll create the strongest kind of memory for that particular thing. So in that sense, listening is good for improving speaking. It will also help with your reading because it's all exposure to the language that you're learning. So it's not that reading, listening, writing, speaking are completely separate and not connected. And it's not that they are completely linked in the same, but rather parts of the skills overlap and are linked. Other parts are specific to that specific thing. Does that make sense?